content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. From time to time, I might be a little choppy here and there. I apologize for that. I have the highest internet speed connection I can get, and this is the kind of service I get, but you know, it is what it is. It just, you know, it is what it is right now. And I have an Ethernet connection as well, so, you know, I can't really call this one. You know, I did call the cable company and ask, like, why is my internet buffering intermittently? And they told me, you know, you might have a bottleneck in the area. Man, I do live around a bunch of college students, so, you know, they're probably watching some pirated movies. Who knows, man? I don't know, man, but I'll try to, you know, keep this brief as I possibly can. But at any rate, man, you know, I want to give a shout out before I get started I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel. So let me take care of that business. I want to give a shout out to Kisses from Afar, Rais Muajid, 77 Base X, True King 337, Life of Commerce, Brian McMurray, Apex Prowler, Karen S., The Average Black Man, Anthony Davis, BGS Ibmore, Raphael Brown, Professor Carlton Jones, Lionel Jean-Louis, Artisan MC, Damon Brown, Donnell 360, Herbert Lewis, Seven Coast Dojo, Roguish Billmonger, Pulpit 28, Michael Ross, Charles Rogers, Papa Didas, Travis King, Adam Williams, B. Hillfire, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean, Brotherly Love 215, Charles Gilmore, Patricia Colley, 7Q Pitt, Kwaku Asasi, Gregory Oliver, Greg, Antonio Feria, Barry Little, Alan Wiley, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, Omni Americana, Cameron 87, Deshaun Nolly, Brian Peaks, Nelso, Kareen Not Karen, Dr. Rock, J. Charles, Mark Holt, Lee Ways, Jeffrey Speed, The Face, Mark Swift, Show Me, I Collar, Donald Watts, Cozy Corner, HipHop.CATV, Coach DC, Kashif Caldwell, I Am Black Man, Nichita, Mr. Blue Collar, Barnolas, Kyle J. Sura, I'm Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, Mr. Heat, Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Blacksworth 404, Rasheed Barnes, Amber Smith, DH, C-Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, Arthur Unknown, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Kalon Jakala, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adept, W. Para 1, Marvin Vattel Jr., and I can't forget my brother in heaven, Forrest Windu. And on the Patreon side, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Marchbank Owens, William Joyner, Javon Thompson, Tyrone Hampton, Jules Winfield, Romello Scruggs, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Jason Warren, Soul Pen, Anu219, Pursuer Prisoner, Taz, Kwaku 217, Dragon 59, Supreme Ibmore, Adrian Hicks, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, Momal, and Asangwa. Shout out to y'all, man. Thank you so much for being members of the Green Gorilla channel. Hit the wrong button, man. That's my fault. I got all kind of technical difficulties going on today. For some reason, I can't seem to get right. But anyway, y'all deserve a round of applause, man. Can't get right. But anyway, man, you know, today I want to have a conversation, you know, about Pookie. And whether or not Pookie is actually destroying the black community or has destroyed it already, undermined black progress, put us at a screeching halt, stop the forward momentum, you know, blase, blase, etc., etc. Right? And when I'm talking about Pookie, I'm not talking about Pookie, the conjoint of Pookie and Ray Ray, as much as I'm talking about the dope fiend. You know, like the one Slick Rick talked about in the song, The Children's Story. Dave the dope fiend shooting dope who don't know the meaning of water nor soap. Right? Have these people destroyed the black community, and moreover, has rampant libertine Epicurean behavior led to the demise of the elevation of black folks in particular? That's what I want to have a conversation about, because, you know, there's a lot of stigmatization and dehumanization of people who have addictions. And so I just wanted to, you know, do a show about it to, you know, get to the truth of the matter, if there's any truth to be gleaned from having a discussion or a conversation about it. I just wanted to, you know, have that conversation. Because I hear a lot of guys say pretty deprecating things about people who have drug addictions. So let me stop the music right now. I'm gonna switch over to another scene right quick. I'm not gonna do any membership screen or anything like that. I'm just going straight into this. All right, I'm gonna stop the music. Because I mean, you know, there's a lot of guys, you know, who are saying some pretty deprecating things about people who, you know, are junkies. And I think more than anything else, you know, the reason is that, you know, drugs in this culture have been stigmatized very heavily. Okay. And so along with that stigmatization comes the stigmatization of people who may become addicted to such substances. But then the question really and truly is, you know, if we have to really ask and answer the question, like, who's the real dope fiends in this culture and in this society? Like, who are the people who are really addicted to illicit or illegal substances, and what kind of impact does their addiction have on their ability to carry out meaningful behavior on an ongoing basis? Like, I mean, there's a lot of attitudes about it, but is there any truth being, you know, spewed about it? That's what I want to get to the root of. That's what I want to get to the heart of today. Okay? So, first of all, you know, one of the things I want to, you know, draw people's attention to is that, you know, as it pertains to drugs, you know, drugs are ubiquitous, man. They're everywhere, and they've always been everywhere throughout the entirety of human existence. I mean, you have to know this, okay? Drugs have not just appeared on the scene relatively recently. They've been here prior to the advent of any civilization at all. Like, human beings were using drugs in hunter-gatherer groups. So you're not going to be perfectly honest, you're not going to stop human beings partaking in consumption of narcotics. It's never going to happen, okay? But the question is, again, is Pookie, and I'm talking about Pookie from New Jack City. I ain't talking about Pookie as the conjoint of Pookie and Ray Ray. I'm talking about Pookie as the conjoint of Ray Ray. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Now, one of the things I want to draw your attention to, right, if I can, if you would so allow me, one of the things that I want to draw your attention to is some of the origins of the world's oldest mind-altering substances. That's one of the first things I want to do, okay? And there's an article in, you know, a blog, and I wouldn't give too much weight to this. I do know that she's accurate historically. I'm not going to take into consideration any of her opinions to any great, you know, extent. But I will say that, you know, what she's written, for the most part, from what I've, you know, studied myself, I deem to be true. Okay. And that's basically throughout the globe, ancient cultures experimented with mind-altering plants around them. Today, some of these may be taboo, but there's evidence to suggest they shaped or helped shape the way we see the world. Okay? And I'm not going to read all of this, but I am going to read some of it. And then I'll move from there I'm going to move on from there to another article and then a video. Okay? And then I might have somebody join in. I don't know if, he's going to pop up or not, but, I may have somebody join in and weigh in on the discussion. But, the article starts off: high in the mountains of northern Peru, carved stone heads keep watch over a quiet museum near Chavín de Juntar, a ceremonial site that predates the Inca Empire. The first head is human, but in subsequent carvings, familiar features turn strange. Teeth protrude across the chin, the nose curves up, and snot streams over the cheeks of a snarling jaguar. Some scholars believe that the heads, called cabezas clavas, depict the ritual transformation of a Chavín de Juntar shaman into a jaguar after consuming an ancient psychedelic cactus called San Pedro. Okay? Still revered in northern Peru, that hallucinogenic cactus has been cultivated in this region since at least the 7th millennia BCE, before the Common Era is what that means, okay? So, this drug has been cultivated and people have been consuming it since 7,000 BC. So I'm just giving you a little backdrop of the origin of, drug use amongst various populations of human beings, okay? Anyway, that continuity is no surprise to Spanish archaeologist Elisa Guerra-Doce, who studies the use of psychoactive substances in ancient times. That's a funny name, Elisa Guerra-Doce. That's like war, something about war. Her name is about war. Let's get war ready or something like that. Anyway, so she studies, this drug use of humans in ancient times. So all over the world, she says, traditional societies continue to use mind-altering agents for magical, spiritual, and healing purposes. Guerra-Doce wrote in a 215 article. The archaeological evidence indicates that the origins of such use might be traced back to prehistory. Not only that, psychoactive plants were woven deeply into belief systems and spiritual practices in every corner of the globe. There are certain scholars who believe that the idea of religion itself emerges from the use of psychoactive plants around the world. That's a hell of a thing. That's a hell of an assumption or a claim to make. That's big. That the idea of an other world or something beyond this one can be traced back to the use of psychotropic substances. Okay? Potentially. That's why I say I take, that's a speculative claim. Okay? So anyway, she says we find drugs in tombs and ceremonial places, always connected with ritual activity. So most of the people in ancient times, they used or utilized psychotropic substances, what we nowadays call drugs, during ritual practices in their respective cultures. And you can find this is ubiquitous. This is not something that you just see, in one area, like in North America or in Africa or in Asia or in Europe. It's everywhere, okay? All over the world, traditional societies continue to use these mind-altering agents, okay? So humans have long leveraged plants to powerful and sometimes mind-altering effects, from Peru's hallucinogenic cactus to the pot-smoking farmers of Neolithic China. These are the oldest drug cultures on Earth. Now, I will have you know that, they found cocaine in mummies, Egyptian mummies, which, one could basically assert is an Africoid culture. So, even, the Egyptians were using cocaine. I mean, these are facts. Now, I mean, you can dispute whether or not these substances should be ingested, but the truth is that human beings since antiquity have been ingesting psychotropic substances. Okay? These are the facts. Okay? Now, here's a woman from Palawan Island, and she is catching a buzz off something called betel, which is a fruit that comes from a tree, but it has a drawback. It turns your teeth red. And so the professor that she's quoting says that archaeologists excavating a Duyong cave on Palawan Island in the Philippines have found betel-stained human teeth dating back to 2600 BC. Turn to archaeobotanical evidence, the story gets much longer. Some data points to betel use in Southeast Asia go back as far as 13,000 years. And here's a woman with red teeth from chewing betel, okay? She looks rather happy, okay? She's smiling, I guess, because of the psychotropic effects of the drug, okay? Also, San Pedro cactus, we already had a conversation about that in Peru. All right, so we already talked about that, the peyote cactus. Mezcal, which is used in Mexico. So bundles of purple blooms have made the Texas mountain laurel a popular ornamental, but it's the plant's bean pods that pack a punch. They're rich in mind-bending alkaloid cysteine, and archaeological evidence found in southern Texas and northern Mexico points to ancient ceremonial use of the mescal bean. And some caches of the plant date to the 9th millennium BC. 9th millennium, like that's 9,000 BC, right? I mean, that's a long time, man, ago. So we talking about 11,000 years ago. Vision seekers once consumed the poisonous plant for the red bean dance, a cleansing ceremony involving prayer and vomiting. Okay, so I guess this is a picture of a indigenous person who may have been using mezcal. Okay, peyote. Traces of this hallucinogenic cactus have been found in Texas, in Shumala's cave, alongside the evidence of elaborate ceremonies including rasping sticks, feather plumes, and cedar incense and reed tubes. Radiocarbon dating of the cactus suggests the ceremonial peyote consumption dates to at least the period of 3,700 to 3,600 BC. And the mescaline-rich plant is still used in sacraments of the Native American church. So it's still being used by Native Americans, okay? Opium. Colorful blooms meet a forceful intoxicant in a plant that's likely served, or that likely served as both a food and a drug for thousands of years. Teasing apart the two uses based on archaeological evidence is a challenge, but remains of the opium poppy in the Italian Neolithic site of La Marmota date to the 6th millennium BC. In 1300 BCE, a Minoan goddess appeared decked with the poppy hairpins, hinting at ancient use of the flower's narcotic power. And here's a picture, So the Italians used opium, okay? And you see ancient, signs that they were using opium, 3,000 years ago, okay? Coca. So we're talking about cocaine, right? Touchdown in one of South America's mountain cities and you'll likely be offered a warm cup of coca tea to ward off the effect of altitude. It's what the locals have been using for the last 8,000 years or so. Growing on the lower slopes of the Andes, coca contains a small amount of the alkaloid cocaine, which can suppress fatigue, hunger, and thirst, along with easing symptoms of altitude sickness. Coca leaves have long been featured in religious offerings and ceremonies too, and visitors can still have their fortune told in a cup of the pale green tea. So if you visit there to South America, you can, drink some cocaine tea, okay? And we all do know that cocaine used to be the active ingredient of Coca-Cola, right? So I'm trying to remain, objective about this. I mean, you can have whatever opinion you want to have, but I do want to know what your opinion is, okay? Did drugs destroy the black community? Cannabis, okay? The Neolithic farmers of the Central Asian steppe. Hemp, thank you so much, Charles Rich Jr. Appreciate your kind and generous donation. I appreciate that, sir. Hemp was a crop of remarkable diversity. From at least the 5th millennium BCE, they cultivated it for ropes, textiles, food, and precious oil. But the plant's hallucinogenic qualities were also prized, and scholars believe cannabis was likely used in a ritual or ceremonial context. So, Central Asia, okay? Talking about cannabis. Nightshade. Traces of psychoactive nightshade found in the Spanish cave suggest mourners were gulping hallucinogenic barley beer graveside back in the 3rd millennium BCE. So I'm showing you this because I'm trying to give you a history to show that like the use of drugs is everywhere. It's ubiquitous in human culture, okay? It's everywhere. And tobacco is also a drug. People get addicted to it, okay? Because of the nicotine that's in it. So people have been using tobacco in Argentina for at least 2000 BC, okay? And in North America, in the United States or somewhere, around this area, they found a nicotine-coated pipe in modern-day Alabama, okay? Which is way before white folks got here, okay? Snuff, which, everybody knows what snuff is chewing tobacco, okay? And mushrooms, okay? So I said I was going to be, kind of spotty with my covering of this material. I know I'm kind of stammering or what have you, but I'm showing you this to demonstrate that the use of drugs are everywhere. It's always been everywhere. It'll always be everywhere. Did society unravel at the seams then? And if it didn't, then why are we, stigmatizing these substances and the people who use them? And, in order to, be able to ridicule and dehumanize them. What's the point? That's my question to you. What is the point? Is stigmatizing and demonizing people for the use of substances that men have been and women have been using for millennia. What is the point? That's my question. And is it the case that people who use drugs in the black community, are they responsible for destroying the black community? Are they an embarrassment, a stain on the black community? And if that's the case, then you also have to look at other ethnic groups and races and their drug use and whether or not that drug use is destroying their communities. Are their communities unraveling at the seams because there are a few people who use drugs? That's the question I'm asking. And look, I'm coming with data. I'm coming with facts. So the first fact is people have been using dope since human beings gathered together. Those are facts. And not just certain ethnic groups. We're talking about people all over the world. Okay? And I just gave you a small sample. Okay? Now, when you start to think about drugs, though, typically what you do think about is the dope head, especially black folks, the crackhead. Now, before there were, crackheads, you had this popular, opinion that the biggest dope user were people who were jazz musicians. Okay? Because, before cocaine became popular, and the Italians are the ones in the United States, I would, argue, when it was illicit and began to resurge, they're among one of the groups who began to push and peddle it Okay. But again, cocaine was not illegal in the Western world until the turn of the 20th century, like the early part of the 20th century. It was the active ingredient in Coca-Cola again. No stigmatization about it. Society seemed to be doing just fine when cocaine was in Coca-Cola. Or was it unraveling at the seams? That's a question. That's a legitimate question I'm asking. If you drank Coca-Cola, were you a junkie? Do you deserve to get stigmatized and dehumanized on account of you drinking Coca-Cola when it had cocaine in it? I think that's a legitimate question. I think it's a legitimate question. But for the next thing, though, because I got several articles I want to, peruse through. Okay? So let's talk more about the jazz musician, right? The jazz musician. The use of drugs by jazz musicians. Let's go there. Okay, so I got an Oxford Journal. And this article was written like in the 60s, okay? Early 60s. Actually, the article was published in a journal called Social Problems, right? The author's name is Charles Winnick. And I'm not going to even read very much of this. I'm going to only read the first 3 paragraphs or maybe 4 paragraphs. But it'll give you some sort of context of where I'm going with this, right? It'll give you some context. Okay, let me expand this a bit. The use of drugs by jazz musicians. Now, why even focus on jazz musicians? Because everybody knows that a lot of great jazz musicians were heroin addicts, supposedly heroin addicts, right? That was their drug of choice. Heroin. And then you got to ask yourself, like New York City was the place where most of these musicians played their music. And this is the only like art form that one could, in terms of music, that one could, associate with America. The first art form that's truly and uniquely American. Jazz. Nobody else can claim that. Okay? But here's what Charles Winnick has to say about it. Again, he's a professor, and he's published in the Oxford Journal, Social Problems, okay? And basically he says, a phenomenon which has attracted intermittent attention of a more or less sensational nature over the years is the association of jazz musicians with the use of narcotics. And today it would be a rapper, okay? Today, it would be one of these young guys doing trap music or something like that, talking about dope use and drugs. Okay? The general public makes such a direct connection between drug use and jazz musicians that it was recently occasion for a major news story when a prominent jazz artist announced that he was not taking drugs. So the assumption then is that even back in the 60s, the early 60s, that Black musicians, jazz musicians, were dope heads. They were drug addicts, smack addicts. Just as today, if you conjure up the image of the dope head, it's going to be somebody like Pookie from New Jack City. Okay? Anyway, there's something that's going to come out of this that's going to surprise you. Okay? Anyway, he goes on to say, Winnick does, the popular press has created an image of a typical wild-looking jazz musician who is a hophead. So this, one of the things you got to be aware of, and this should be, borne out. The popular press Winnick is acknowledging, created the image of a wild-looking jazz musician who's a hophead. Now, this is racism, to be perfectly honest. This is what this is. "24 Tribes," I hear you. You know, we can debate it about in relation to jazz, but, you know, I don't want to get too far sidetracked from the main point. But at any rate, how great a discrepancy there has been in the past between press accounts of the extent of addiction and scientific reports could perhaps be seen most clearly in 1924, when the U.S. Public Health Service reported that there were 110,000 addicts in the country at a time when a number of newspapers said there were 4 million. So he's just showing you how the press can blow things out of proportion and not attach reality to popular, you know, wisdom or conventional wisdom about something. Okay? So in the U.S., carnival workers and other itinerant entertainers have had a tradition of taking morphine and opium, and there have been various unsubstantiated guesses about the proportion of entertainers who use opiates. Other than entertainers and musicians, it has traditionally been believed that physicians represent the occupational group most likely to be associated with narcotic use. Gotta drop a bomb on you one time. Did he just say that? Did he just mention that? And this is important to tease out of here, man. Other than entertainers and musicians, it has traditionally been believed. Now, we don't believe this because we don't have any knowledge of anything about this. Not us, because we're going to paint ourselves as the biggest dope addicts out here. But in reality, the largest use of drug addicts and the biggest group of people who use dope are physicians. But I guarantee you, you're not going to call them any derogatory names because they're physicians. They're esteemed, right? They're people who are worthy of respect. They're human. They're accomplished. They contribute towards the overall productivity, right? They provide a service for the society in which they live, right? The incidence of narcotic addiction among physicians has been estimated at about 0.5% by the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Other estimates have gone as high as 2%. In England, the narcotic control procedures, which are so often contrasted with ours, approximately 17% of the small number of known addicts are physicians, and jazz band musicians are the second most frequently found addict occupational group. So no, it's not the black jazz musician blowing his trumpet, shooting dope in his arm, which you see in movies. You see it on television. You hear about it in music. But rarely, if ever, do you see the imbibing of these substances, the ingestion, the injection of these substances among the people who are the largest group of people who use them. So if these physicians are not destroying the medical profession, if they're not destroying the society at large, then what case do we have to make that these people in the black community who are, users of these drugs and are addicted, how is it possible that only among us this is causing this much damage and wreaking this much havoc? I'm just asking the question. It's just a question I'm asking. And no, Young Geese, I'm not Angry Man. Shout out to Angry Man, but I'm not him. Not that guy. But at the end of the day, while we having, all of these derogatory things to say about people who use dope, and I'll have you know, like, let's be upfront about this, okay? I used to be involved in the drug trade as a young man. For right or wrong, I did it. And I can tell you most assuredly, everybody that I sold dope to was not a so-called quote-unquote Pookie. I can guarantee you that. Some of the people had more bread than I had. I'm just keeping it real with you now. Everybody ain't strung out just because they're using an illicit substance. It is believed, like I think, the actual number, and you can fact check me on this, less than 10%, I think it's even less than like 8% of people who use illicit substances, and I'm talking about the most hardcore of them. I'm talking about heroin, opium, I'm talking about cocaine, the hardest drugs out there, PCP. Most people do not become addicted to those substances. And you can go fact check me on that. I'm willing to debate any guy from this space or any other space who wants to go into this case by case, fact by fact. So we're talking about popular wisdom versus actually digging into the books, looking at the stats, looking at the numbers, and then also looking at people who study this for a living. People who study drug use in human beings and test them on an ongoing basis to determine how their bodies react to the substances. But in case you didn't believe me, let's get to it. Hold on. Got another one to show you. Since we want to talk about the addict and the dope head and Pookie or whatever the case may be. Let's talk about substance abuse in healthcare. Doctors and nurses account for some of the highest rates of addiction in the workforce. According to USA Today, across the country, more than 100,000 doctors, nurses, technicians, and other health professionals struggle with abuse or addiction, mostly involving narcotics such as oxycodone and fentanyl. So the imperator says the feds may be on their way to repossess some of your assets. No, the feds already caught up with me and I went to jail. So no, they can't catch up with me. I've been there and I've done that. That's over with. So no, they ain't on their way. That's done and over with. Can't try me for the same crime twice. So at any rate, like many other working professionals facing an addiction, a medical professional might have multiple reasons for turning to drugs or alcohol. They could be looking for a way to stay alert on an all-day or overnight shift, or a way to escape the emotional pain from a day of hard decisions and upsetting outcomes. What sets doctors and nurses apart from other professionals is their accessibility to highly sought after drugs. Because it's easier for them to get the drugs, it's easier to create or feed an addiction. And then it goes on to say the rate at which doctors and nurses suffer from addiction may be high, but this subgroup of people also has a high rate of recovery when they get treatment. So that's them humanizing each other. Unlike us, we'll go to great lengths to dehumanize the members of our own community or the people of our own race. We're quick to, castigate one of our own. And I ain't trying to say that they're saints or anything like that. Like I personally, the hardest drug I've used is marijuana. I have done it. I'll admit that. But, I've been prescribed opioids and codeine and stuff like that. I mean, I've had like a surgery on my wrist. I jammed my finger playing basketball over 25 years ago. Jammed the shit out of my finger. And a cyst started to grow on the top of my wrist. And it started to shoot up my arm. I had surgery on it. They removed the cyst and they gave me, opioids and codeine. I took that shit, and after I took it, it was done. I wasn't like, oh, I got to get some more of this. Oh my God. Now, I'm not to say that some people don't, but I didn't. And I love to drink some beer. I love that. I like the vape too. Shit, I like my nicotine. But at the same time, I never, even after using the opioids or the codeine, which is, the pharmacological equivalent of cocaine for real, I didn't become a dope head when I used that. So most people who use these drugs are not what one would call a Pookie. Most people don't get addicted. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people who do. But could the small number of people who actually do create so much turmoil in the community to destroy it? Like, really? So all throughout human history, people have been using dope. They haven't destroyed society or destroyed their communities. You got doctors and nurses and technicians using dope, even the hardest. They're not destroying their medical profession. But we are though, right? I'm just asking a question. Feel free to join me if you like. Feel free to chime in if you want to. I'm just making, I'm going to the actual factuals about it. I'm not going to deal with just a common, wisdom or provincial wisdom about it. I'm going to go research it and look it up and figure out what it is for real. But we ain't done though. Let's look at some famous geniuses who've been dope heads. And let's see, if we got that smoke for them. We got a guest, I'm saying? I'm going to bring them in. Are you there, Patreon?
I'm here, brother. This is brother.
And let's see, you got to turn your YouTube down. You got to make sure your YouTube is turned down.
I just turned it off. My bad.
That's cool. And I'm going to put you on this little side screen right here. You cool with that? Okay.
Yeah, brother. That's not a problem.
Okay, so at any rate, I mean, what do you think thus far? What's your opinion thus far?
I'm really enjoying this presentation, brother. I appreciate the fact that you are taking this on and presenting the facts rather than the stereotype that has been constructed regarding some of our brothers and sisters in the community. Because for me, it's one of the most frustrating stereotypes that I hear being advanced in this particular space, and it's very similar to a lot of the arguments that I don't want to say the white supremacists, but a lot of our enemies use against our people. And the entire irony of it is that if you look back to that period of time in terms of who were those brothers and sisters that helped us to advance our rights and our struggle within this nation, it was the so-called Pookies and Ray Rays who kind of like took it to the street and put their lives on the line so that the folks who are now lambasting them today can exist in the comfortable positions they exist in within this current economic paradigm. So I'm just really appreciative of you taking on this topic.
For sure, brother. Hey, man, those are some nice words, man, and I thank you, for your, your kind words directed towards me in this regard. Now, you can stay here if you want to and comment as we go along, or you can slide out. I invite you to stay if you would like to. That's all I'm saying.
Listen, brother.
Okay.
All right.
So, okay. So, at any rate, just look at some famous people who imbibe these now perceived, newly perceived pariahs, like these evils, to the point where the society is going to unravel and they have no worth or value. Okay? So Sigmund Freud used to use cocaine. Now, everybody knows who Sigmund Freud is. You should know. I mean, especially some of you Negroes, y'all so damn smart. He's one of the founding fathers of the discipline of psychology. Okay? To Freud, cocaine was more than a personal indulgence. He regarded it as a wonder drug, and for many years was a huge proponent of its use in a wide array of applications. He once wrote in a letter to his fiancée, "If all goes well, I will write an essay on cocaine, and I expect it will win its place in therapeutics by the side of morphine and superior to it. I take very small doses of it regularly against depression and against indigestion, and with the most brilliant of success." That's Sigmund Freud. And then it goes on to talk about how he, published a paper on it and so on and so forth. So you get it. Francis Crick. He basically discovered the structure of DNA. And he told numerous friends and colleagues about his LSD experiments during the time he spent working to determine the molecular structure that houses all of life's information. Yeah, what's up, brother Neil? What's going on with you, Dr. Neil, man? What's happening with you, man? Let me give you a shout out, man. And let me give a shout out to some of the other brothers out here too, man. I don't want to ever think that, I'm not appreciative. Thank you, Rasheed Barnes. Appreciate you, sir. And it's another brother that hit me up. Thank you again, Mr. Charles Rich, man. Thank you, brother, so much, man. Appreciate your contributions, okay? Now, I'm just trying to lay out the actual factuals, The actual factuals. So basically, the guy who discovered DNA, like, what have you done today? What world-breaking insight have you contributed towards the compendium of human progress? Just asking a question, not trying to be ignorant. What have you done? These are junkies, though, right? Thomas Alva Edison. In 1863, French chemist Angelo Mariani invented Vin Mariani, a Bordeaux wine treated with coca leaves, the active ingredient of which is none other than cocaine. The ethanol content in Bordeaux could extract cocaine from the coca leaves in concentrations exceeding 7 milligrams per fluid ounce of wine. Thomas Edison, the prolific American inventor and notorious insomniac, was one of many people of the period known to regularly consume the cocaine-laced elixir. Paul Erdos, amphetamines. Well known for his hyperactivity, his habit of working 19 hours of days, no wonder, small wonder you're taking amphetamines. Even well into his old age, and his tendency to show up on his colleagues' doorsteps demanding they open their minds to mathematical dialogue, was one of the most prolific mathematicians who ever lived, publishing more peer-reviewed papers than any other mathematician in history. What was his secret? According to him, amphetamines. Included here is an excerpt from a book published by Erdos, Erdos's de facto biographer, science writer Paul Hoffman. Okay, and here's a quote from the book, I guess, written by Hoffman. Like all of Erdos's friends, fellow mathematician Ronald Graham was concerned about his drug taking. In 1979, Graham bet Erdos $500 that he couldn't stop taking amphetamines for a month. Erdos accepted the challenge and went cold turkey for 30 days. After Graham paid up and wrote off the $500 as a business expense, Erdos said, "You've showed me I'm not an addict, but I didn't get any work done. I'd get up in the morning and stare at a blank piece of paper. I have no ideas. Just like an ordinary person. You set mathematics back a month." He promptly resumed taking pills, and mathematics was the better for it. So, I mean, I'm just showing you. Steve Jobs, LSD. LSD was a big deal for Steve Jobs. How big? Evidently, Jobs believed that experimenting with LSD in the 60s was one of the 2 or 3 most important things he had done in his life. What's more, he felt that there were parts of him that the people he knew and worked with could not understand simply because they hadn't had a go at psychedelics. This latter sentiment also comes through in his recently published biography, wherein Jobs goes so far as to associate what he interpreted as Bill Gates' dearth of imagination with the like of psychedelic experimentation. Although he would be wrong about that, because Bill Gates did indeed play around with LSD. I'm just saying. Bill Gates. Which is funny because Bill Gates actually did experiment with LSD. Though an excerpt from a 94 interview with Playboy reveals he was much less open about it than Jobs. Of course, people get tight-lipped when you start talking about things that are illegal. But I know for a fact, bro, you know how many people I know with advanced degrees and people who are professionals? Like, I went to college with people who are now doctors and lawyers. And I went to all black college. And they were doing shrooms, acid, the whole fucking nine, man. Just saying. I went to a rich white boy high school. From the hood. My OG made sure I went to the best school. Okay, so I'm at this school. I never saw as much dope in my life. I never even seen dope in the hood. I saw pills. I saw powder. I saw weed, not little bitty tiny cellophane bags of weed. I'm talking about big ass Ziploc bags full of weed. Pounds of the shit. With bongs. They don't, no papers. We ain't rolling up blunts and shit like that, little joints. We putting it in the bone, man. Rich ass white dudes. I'm just saying, man. I'm just putting it out there so you can see it for yourself. Because you won't stigmatize and dehumanize none of these guys. John Lilly, ketamine. Neuroscientist John Lilly was a pioneer in the field of electric brain stimulation. He was the first person to map pain and pleasure pathways in the brain. Richard Feynman, LSD, marijuana, and ketamine. Feynman was always careful about drug use for fear of what it might do to his brain, giving up alcohol, for example, when he began to exhibit symptoms of addiction. But anyway, what did Feynman do? Feynman's curiosity got the best of him when he became acquainted with none other than John C. Lilly and his sensory deprivation tanks. So he's one of the people who basically, figured out, how he worked with, Feynman, or excuse me, Lilly rather, in order to learn more about neuroscience. Kerry Mullis, LSD. I mean, I can go on and on and on, right? Carl Sagan. Smoke some weed. But the whole point is, there are a lot of people out here, man, who use dope. They don't never necessarily tell you what they're doing, but they're doing it. But I can tell you a lot of people, man, I done sold some crack to. They not dumb people, man. I can tell you that for a fact. A lot of y'all, the only experience you got with drugs in the game of drugs is through TV and shit. And YouTube videos and shit. I'm just keeping it 100. Or maybe your family members fucked up and strung out or some shit like that. You get, maybe something like that. But for every one of them, it's about 90 others who are using the shit, and you don't even know it. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I'm not trying to be ignorant about it. I'm just saying these are the facts about it. These are the facts. Do some people get strung out on it? I'm pretty sure. But the vast majority of people who use these substances do not. So we talked about, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. What about your boy George Bush? What about your previous president? You probably got one of his pins in, for your lapel or something. Oh man, the way you be, jocking these conservatives, which I don't have an issue with, but damn. You don't think Bush was powdering his nose, man? This daddy worked for the CIA, he powdering his nose. Again, most people who use the dope, man, don't become addicted. Some people do, but it's a minority of people who do. And maybe we need to get them some help. But damn, all the stigmatization or whatever the case may be, come on. But a lot of guys in this space, man, they lionize the conservatives so much, they'll praise this motherfucker. And then call one of the cats who smoke dope down the street, they'll call them all kind of crackheads and junkies and shit. But they won't call that motherfucker a junkie. I'm just saying. I'm just keeping it 100 with you now. You already know Obama smoked weed and Bill Clinton smoked weed. You already know this, man. So I'm showing you all of this basically to basically demonstrate, man. I'm just saying, man. You know, I'm just trying to bring you, you know, the information, bro. You can take it and do what you want to. Either way, it don't really matter to me. I'm just trying to give you info. And last but not least, you know, I got a video I want to share with you. You know, it's about 10 minutes long, and then I'm about to jet up out of here. So I do want to include Wale right quick. What do you think about them guys, man? I mean, you know, you still here, ain't you?
I'm here, brother. Like I told you, I'm appreciating this topic. I don't know if you see the comment I left you in the back chat, but I said here that Pookies and Ray Rays are paper tigers that some of these men create to feel good about their own cowardice and to soothe their childhood wounds. And what I basically mean by that is by blaming Pookie and Ray Ray for what's happening in our community, it allows them to punch down instead of lifting up their gaze and pointing to our real enemy. And also, it helps them to soothe their childhood wounds, because in many ways, a lot of these brothers feel ineffective or emasculated by some of the who they call Pookies and Ray Rays, who got like the woman in the community when they were younger, and that feeling of rejection, it helps them to soothe a wound to then now look down on these brothers and say, you know, you're the one who got the girl when we were younger, but now I'm successful and I'm thriving within the economy and you're suffering. So, you know, they create them for their own use, but I think it's a form of cowardice.
I just, you know, my whole thing is, you know, like I don't stigmatize and demonize anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want to treat your nose, that's on you. I've never done it. Okay, but if that's what you're doing, that's on you. And the vast majority of people who do it don't get addicted to it, become hypes, like Pookie. But I think, you know, like you said, paper tigers, you know, I think it's a scapegoat in order to not take responsibility for, you know, basically showing some initiative and doing something positive to lead towards the progressiveness of the black community.
Absolutely. And scapegoat was a much better term than paper tiger, for sure, because that's exactly what it is.
It's like the boogeyman. You can create somebody you can talk down on because everybody talking about your black ass. It's respectability politics, but man, white boys get to play around with dope all they want to. Dope is in Wall Street. It's in the university. It's in hospitals. Chief residents use it. I'm talking about chief residents of hospitals use the shit. You dig me?
No, absolutely. I was on a panel recently with a group of brothers, and one of the brothers was really trying hard to convince me that it is the black women who are making our community suffer the way that it is. And when I wouldn't agree, his reply to me, he said, "Well, then how does the system, you know, maintain us in the position that we're in?" And I said, "Through the use of terror." And another brother on the call jumped right in and said, "The biggest terrorists in the community are the Pookies between the ages of 15 and 25." And I was like, man, that's the talking point right off of Fox News. But it's like you can't get them to focus their aim on who's really doing the hitting, because we're so concerned with punching down and creating, like you said, these scapegoats, so we don't have to deal with the real issue.
Well, look, man, you got young guys, man, who, you know, in the neighborhoods, man, they are a threat. Because, I mean, you know, murder is a young man's game. All right? You know, when you get over 35, you probably ain't gonna shoot nothing, man. You probably ready to go. Your knees hurt when you bend over and shit. Your back. You ain't trying to murder nothing. You trying to hit something. You know what I'm saying? Like, but at the end of the day, it's easy to stigmatize and scapegoat only one group and not look at yourself and look what you're doing. It's easy to look at who's destroying or tearing shit up, but what are you doing to build it up? That's all I'm saying. Woo! What's up, my brother? You there, CEO? Man, where you at, bruh? Anyway, I'm gonna keep on pushing then since he ain't gonna say nothing right now. And I'm pretty sure some police officers using some dope too.
Not just using it, pushing it. Like they involved.
You figure deal me? But you know, at any rate, one other thing I want to show you is this video, man. I'm gonna show you a video of a neuroscientist. His name is Carl Hart. I know you've seen him before. If you haven't, you're gonna see him today. And you know, here's what he has to say about the issue. You know? And it is something that I snatched off of YouTube. So if I get a notice that I gotta yank it, or if I get timed out for it, you'll know why. But I'm gonna try to break it up into chunks so that it's not just running, you know, all the way through. But this is Carl Hart, man.
We started to use the term marijuana mainly to associate it with Mexican Americans in an effort to vilify the drug, because cannabis had been around forever and many Americans were familiar with the effects of cannabis. And so you couldn't make these incredible stories up about cannabis itself, but really they're the same thing. I'm Carl Hart, professor in the departments of psychiatry and psychology at Columbia University. I study the effects of drugs in people. There's so much misunderstanding about drugs, particularly recreational drugs. And today I'd like to clear up some of the information and debunk many of the myths that many people hold. Marijuana.
The reason I'm stopping it here is because this man is a neuroscientist. He works in the Department of Psychiatry and Psychology at Columbia University, and he studies the effects of drugs on human beings for a living. But I'm not gonna, like, any scholar can say anything, so you got to fact check. But if I'm going to believe somebody, it's probably going to be the expert, the person who, after a protracted series of experiments, has actually learned what the stuff actually does to the human system. Now, you can get addicted on anything, man. I've seen, you know, people get addicted to food. Some people get addicted to sex. Some people get addicted to, you know, adrenaline and, you know, extreme sports. Some people get addicted to dope. Some people get addicted to exercise, alcohol. It's a whole bunch of stuff people get addicted to. And yeah, drugs just so happens to be one of those things. Okay? I want to welcome Leonard Ray to the stream. How you doing, brother?
What's happening? What's happening? Just trying to play some catch up here so I can be on point with your topic.
For sure, man. I feel you. You know, what I want to do is talk about, you know, drugs and whether or not people who use them are destroying society and themselves in the process. Are they the biggest impediment to black success? These dope heads. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, like, I know about the crack epidemic or whatever the case may be, what they called it. But I'm like, okay, well, prior to that, you had like black folks on the East Coast using heroin super heavy. And, you know, yeah, white folks using heroin super heavy. And you got white people on methamphetamine and all of this kind of stuff. Now, there are some people who may become addicted to these substances, but like the vast majority of people do not.
Okay.
That's just the truth.
What's up, Professor? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, brother, man. I couldn't hear you at first. I'm like, what a CEO, man. What my nigga that don't, you know, drinking liquor.
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Something that happened with your stream, whereas when you go and you chime in, I couldn't even hear any audio backstage. So I had to log out and log back on, then log out and log back on again before I could hear what was going on. So it must have been something going on with StreamYard.
Man, I apologize, man. You know, every now and then, man, I get bottlenecking in my area, man. It's, you know, and with my internet. So I apologize for the choppiness of the stream earlier on or any other technical difficulties that you might be experiencing on your way in. And what I'm not trying to do is make an apology for drug use. I'm not encouraging drug use. Let me put that out there right now as a disclaimer. I'm not promoting the use of dope. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not saying that, you know, black folks should be, you know, using drugs more profusely. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, in reference to, you know, like the so-called impact that this shit is having on our community, I'm saying the impact is no greater than any other community. So, I mean, we can't use this as a means by which to, you know, basically say, okay, these people are worthless or, you know, or this problem is so rampant that it's preventing us from being able to think straight and to get, you know, collect ourselves. That's not it. And by the way, Huey P. Newton was a dope head. He got killed trying to make a drug deal, if I ain't mistaken. But you know who Huey P. Newton is, right?
Surely do.
So I'm just saying, man.
Doesn't he hold a PhD in education?
Oh yeah. So I mean, sometimes you got, man. Some people who use dope are highly functional, man. You understand what I'm saying? About, you know, I've used marijuana and drink beer. That's what I did. That's and you know, every now and then some hard liquor, you know, when, you know, the situation or occasion calls for it or whatever the case may be. But primarily, I kind of, because I know, like, I like to sip. So if I can't sip and sip and sip, you sip that hard shit, you're gonna be fucked up. And that's, you know,
I was like, well, if people want to talk about people being under the influence of drugs and being functional, hell, we got one of the most functional there ever was.
Who that is? Who?
Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor was so on that doggone girl that they didn't even want to sell him no dope. He's known for smoking up 1 kilo in a weekend.
Oh my, that's crazy, bro. Like, is that even possible, man?
Yeah, Richard Pryor did it. Look it up.
Look it up.
Look up his bio, man. Richard Pryor is the only person I ever heard of in my life that drug dealers was like, nah, man, we ain't even selling you nothing, dude. Come on, man. Come on, bruh. You Richard Pryor. And he was known for smoking up to 1 kilo of cocaine in a weekend. How do you smoke 2 pounds of powder?
Man, that shit is crazy to me, dog. I
ain't never smoked cocaine. I've seen people smoke it, but I'm sitting here like, it's only 24 hours in a day. You know what I'm saying? You was a smoking motherfucker. If you smoked up a kilo in a weekend.
Like my man Rick James said, cocaine's a hell of a drug, man.
Yeah.
But you know, some people can take something and overdo it. You know, everything in moderation, man. You know, that's overdoing it, man. And you know, that's crazy to me, bro. Like, but I don't even know what. I couldn't tell you what the effect of cocaine is, other than from a codeine pill. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I don't have no clue.
I have no idea what that shit'll do to you. None whatsoever. It must be some good shit. But I mean, if it's that good, I don't want to fuck with it for real.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, the addictive qualities in it. Okay, but you know, but you can look at back in the day and people all hyped up on it, like during the disco era. It's like cocaine, that's the best. You know, they used to use that Coca-Cola symbol from the can of Coca-Cola for it. Coke, the real thing.
Yeah, the active ingredient in Coca-Cola used to be cocaine. They even had a soda called Dope Cola. And I don't think Pepsi ever had any drugs in it.
Pepsi basically to settle your stomach.
Except that heavy ass sugar they put in it.
So the only thing I tried to do was to demonstrate, and you know, you're entitled to your opinion. Anybody in the chat, like I hear Durable Goods say, this is nothing to be applauded. I get it. I understand it. But like what I did, I started the show off by saying illicit substances in this country, right? Which is what we've created. We created the conditions in which these drugs are illicit. They're illegal. Okay? And if you know the history of the drug illegalization process and the prohibition of drugs, it tagged along with the prohibition of alcohol. Okay? And a lot of the excuses for the laws being put into place were based on racist reasoning. You talking about marijuana with the Mexicans, which he's basically showing right here. He already said it. Carl Hart said it, but I've been knowing this for at least 20 years because I studied it, right? Marijuana. But marijuana is everywhere. They used to, like you said, they used to call it cannabis. It wasn't called marijuana. They called it marijuana to give it a alien sounding name so that it could be more further, something that conjures up, like this fear and reprobation in the mind of white folks. Then they started off with the code.
It used to be called hemp because it's a hemp plant that they use to make rope.
Yeah, they call it hemp. Okay. But opium was legal in the United States. Like the biggest drug user in America at the turn of the 20th century was the white woman, man. The white housewife.
Check this out. You ever seen the movie Tombstone? Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and such.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, remember when they got off the doggone train and one of the women was asking the other one if they had some laudanum?
No, yeah, I don't remember that.
Okay,
man.
now that bottle of what those women were drinking was the equivalent of what's called syrup today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not
telling you. Yeah, I'm not telling you anything you can't look up for yourself. It was a legalized, supposed to have been a painkiller, but they didn't know that it was the opium base in it could cause, physical addiction to it. Just like I think it was 1969, they had cough syrup that had codeine in it. It became behind the counter sold cough syrup. You couldn't buy it. Then they started advertising non-narcotic cough syrup.
Yeah.
Now, my belief on the whole drug thing is this. Just like prohibition, if it could be figured out how to be manufactured and taxed, it would be legalized. But you don't have any doggone, you can't produce it in the United States or Hawaii. You can't grow it because we don't have that what do you want to call it? That environment.
Yeah, the soil. You can't actually. It's not the soil is not fertile for that particular crop.
Right. Now somebody did do a proof different, but then they abandoned the place. They went South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of the Carolinas, and you can look the story up. It was somebody that was Chinese, and they were growing poppies on their land, and somebody got alerted those were poppy plants, and they abandoned the property, but they never got a chance to actually utilize them to see what the quality of the heroin would be. It's just like you could grow coffee beans anywhere in the world, but if the coffee beans are not grown in Colombia, they're not going to have that high level of caffeine in it. So it is to do with the soil, the environment, the temperature, and all of that. It's like you're not going to see an orange tree in Chicago. You can't grow oranges in Chicago.
Yeah, some places are more, environmentally friendly to different crops because that's where they come from.
Right.
And some climates are too harsh or whatever the case may be. I get it. I understand that.
Right. Since the United States doesn't have that type of property, whereas they could manufacture it, they're only going to do taxation on something that they could do the full manufacturing process too. That's the reason I tell people drugs will never be, all the drugs will not be legalized like when they legalize alcohol
That's
after
that's
prohibition.
why your states usually have them as schedules. Like marijuana for the longest time was Schedule 1, cocaine Schedule 2, steroids would be like Schedule 4. The reason why they call it schedules is that does it have a medical use or correspondent? Like, of course, steroids, you could use that in the medical field. Marijuana, for some reason, they put it Schedule 1 because, most drugs are illicit because they were racially based. Like you just got out of saying when it was the Hispanics, just like opioids, they were talking about how the Asians, particularly the Chinese, were opioids,
Yep.
even though the British and Americans were flooding their asses were full of it, but that's why.
Yeah, I
And
mean, yeah, but that's why just to pick up on Charles' point, ultimately, man, most of the drugs in the country became illegal, and they used race as the means by which to usher in and pass these laws, right? So that the Asians are gonna, destroy society with their opium use. They're gonna get us hooked on it. Cocaine, you're gonna have too many Negroes who want to rape white women. The same with the Mexicans, the marijuana makes them crazy and violent. So those were the kind of arguments that were used in order to get the legislation passed. Now, the question is, this country is a strange place, man. And here's what's strange about it to me. And peep this, you tell me if you feel this is strange as well, okay? Right now, any woman can go have an abortion, which means she can terminate the life inside of her. And the reasoning used is, it's my body, my choice. Ain't that what the reason is?
yep.
True.
Or am I mistaken about that? That's the reason, right? It's my choice because it's my body,
You right?
right? But when it pertains to any other thing, especially dealing with psychotropic substances that have been regarded or scheduled as illegal, right? What's the big deal? I'm asking a question. This is not me, like dictating what the truth of the matter is. I'm asking a question.
Well, it's the possession of the substance itself. Like if somebody is high or whatever, and they're not operating a vehicle or something like that, the only thing you're going to get them on is disturbing the peace of the public if they're disturbing people. But other than that, if someone's sitting in the comfort of their home and they high as a damn kite, and somebody called the police saying, this mother is high and thus and so, what are they doing? No, they just in here high as hell. It's like, we can't do nothing about that. Now, do they have any dope there? See, it's the possession aspect of it all. That's what some people don't look at.
Yeah, well, my whole thing is, the only reason that you got like for example, in my view, just to be honest about it, the whole crack thing, the epidemic and all the violence and the gang activity related to it, if it was legal, that shit would have never occurred in the first place.
Yeah, that would have removed the gang element because you would have removed the doggone financial benefit through illegal sales.
Anytime,
that's a no-brainer.
Even with alcohol, like the mafia,
With the prohibition years.
they came up through the sale of something that they knew the public wanted, which is alcohol. And they cornered the market in that. And they made sure that it was flowing throughout the bars or, the speakeasies and so on and so forth across America.
Right.
And they transported it and distributed it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it gave rise to NASCAR and, a whole host of other kind of practices that we engage in to this day. There were sporting events and people would have alcohol at the sporting events. And we still do that today. But, and I think Durable Goods is right about this. Like the biggest drug that causes the most deaths out of all the other drugs combined is alcohol. And most people don't know that. And most people are drinkers. Probably in this space.
Hey, let's not badmouth alcohol too much.
But I'm saying, I'm keeping it real though. Like, we got to deal with facts.
A lot of alcoholic related deaths. You have more people die of alcohol each year than all other drugs combined.
But nobody will tell you that. And when it comes to withdrawal symptoms, alcohol has the most severe withdrawal symptoms. If you're hooked on alcohol for real, like if you're a real alcoholic,
you can literally
if you don't get a shot, if you don't get that shot, bruh, you are fucked up, man.
You can literally die going cold turkey.
The shakes. You had those shakes. You was a bona fide alcohol. Man.
They call it delirium tremens. You know what I'm saying? Like, my uncle was an alcoholic, man. And, you know, he went through, like, the tremens, the trembles, the shakes and all that, the convulsions. He went through that.
Yeah, the partner of mine drank himself to death by the time he was 27.
And, you know, like, some people have the constitution to be able to use some substances, whereas others don't. Because of their, you know, everybody has a unique chemical makeup. You know what I'm saying? So, whereas one man may be able to drink alcohol, like, without, like, getting really faded like that, somebody else might drink it and they tore it from the floor up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, these substances have different kinds of reactions in different people's bodies. You know what I'm saying?
It depends on the tolerance.
So, you know, I like alcohol. I ain't gonna lie, man. You know what I'm saying? I haven't drank in quite a bit of, you know, quite a bit of time. You know what I'm saying? I like marijuana too. I ain't smoked, man, in years. You know what I'm saying? It's just like I just haven't. You know what I'm saying? Like I have not.
I sure hate it for you, but guess what? Guess what? Most of me got it. It make me feel good, keep me low, stable, mellow, because I'm a upper by nature. I can get what they would consider back in the 80s. You're a hyperactive kid, and I don't like it. I like to be calm, cool, and mellow, and in my right mind, so I can observe everything and listen to everything and pay attention and use my brain. And I don't like being distracted too much. That's why I smoke it. That's all, and to keep the headaches away from. I spent over 13 and a half years playing contact football league with my head in my helmet. So I know I'm suffering from early onset CTE. And every now and again, when them headaches come on and they get real bad in the back of my head, look, I'm poor black and I'm hustling every day. I can't afford to deal with these so-called doctors. So I'm going to just do what normal black people do, which they like to say is foul and illegitimate. I'm going to self-fucking-medicate. And that's what I do. And it keeps me happy. And as long as I'm happy, I'm fine.
Hey, you know, I'm not knocking it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying the only reason I ever even started selling cocaine, which I'm kicking myself in the ass for having done it. You know what I'm saying? Because if I hadn't have done it, I never would have gotten in trouble for real. Okay, but I did do it. Okay, but I figured, okay, I smoke weed, I may as well sell the shit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and so, shit, I bought 5 pounds of weed. I was like, okay, shit, I'm in the game now. What's good? What you need? You know what I'm saying? If it's a half P, I sell it. I can't sell you no pound till I get my weight up, but that's how I felt. And, you know, I stayed twisting weed. But that was 30 years ago, damn near. You understand what I'm saying? So now, you know, it's a new day. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, you know, like I feel like shit, I don't need that shit for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I'm keeping my signal clear. But I'm, you know, if the occasion arose for it, then I might fuck around with it. But for the most part, man, I really don't fuck with it. That's just, you know, having beer, man, and watching the game, man, at a bar somewhere with your boys, man, it's like 10 or 12 of y'all chilling, y'all just watching the game, talking shit. It's fun to have some alcohol. If you in the club, it's fun to have some. I'm just keeping it 100. I mean, am I lying?
Hell no.
Shit.
No, you
I'm
ain't
just
lying.
saying.
You ain't never lied. You telling the truth.
I'm
And,
about
and
to
drinking
open
that
up
alcohol in the club make the booties look bigger. I'm
I'm
just
about
saying.
to pop open a bottle of VSOP and a cigar in a few
I,
minutes.
I was about to say some yak and a cigar is definitely right.
Man, especially if they let you smoke in there. Nowadays, they got it where you can't smoke in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, no, there's no smoke.
Yep.
But a lot of people are vaping and shit inside now. But, you know, like back in the day, there wasn't no smoking prohibition. None of that. You can smoke on an airplane. Can you imagine getting on an airplane, motherfucker sitting next to you smoking and shit today? No way. But that was how it was when I was a kid. You get on the Greyhound bus.
Remember when you used to smoke in McDonald's?
Hell yeah, you can smoke at McDonald's. You used to be able to smoke on a fucking bus,
Yeah.
a city bus.
You used to you had to sit at the front or the back.
City bus.
I'm just saying, but that was a you know.
I think the only place that was unacceptable for us to smoke back in the day. Green Gorilla. I think the only place that was unacceptable for us to smoke back in the day was high school or junior high. That was it. That was the only place I could think of. Everywhere else, you could smoke in hospitals, where you couldn't smoke in church. But everywhere else,
you couldn't smoke in the church. You could not smoke in the church. They didn't in high schools. In my high school, you can smoke outside. You can't smoke, you know, like right on the campus. You know what I'm saying? But you know, you can't. In some public high schools, they had smoke areas. In the airport, you used to have smoke areas. But then, like, before, you know, like, all this, you know, save everybody from, you know, death and cancer, you know, prior to that, though, it was like, you know, people was smoking, popping up everywhere. I used to go, my mom used to send me to the store, man, to go buy her cigarettes, bro. And I wasn't nothing but like 8, 9 years old. Go give me a pack of cigarettes. My uncle used to do the same shit. Go give me a pack of cigarettes. I'm like, damn.
That was like they stopped that in like the early, like the mid '90s.
So you know, I mean,
little kid getting a pack of Newports for my mother.
My mom smoked straight up regular ass cigarettes, man. Winston Light 100s was the shit that she smoked, bro. I'll never forget it. Go give me a pack. Okay, I'll go out and get the shit. That's not what I wanted. I want Winston Light 100s because motherfuckers that smoke like what they like to smoke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
that used to be the one back in the day. The Winstons and them Pall Mall.
Man, I can't.
Correct.
I could.
Now, I got y'all beat. My granddaddy used to tell me like I remember like it was yesterday. Green Gorilla just gave me a good-hearted memory of my granddad. Boy, get your ass up and go give me some of them bitches and hoes, and go get your grandmother a pack of L&M's. And I had to go get a pack of bitches and hoes, 100, and a pack of red L&M cigarettes from around the corner at the Quickie Picky, and bring them back. And I know y'all remember this. You had to bring it back in a brown paper bag.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, you know my OG didn't care about the paper bag, but I know one thing. I remember them bitches and hoes, them Vincent and Hedges menthols. You know what I'm saying? I remember them cool. They used to call them Cadillacs. You know, hey. All I can say is, man, the world has changed, man. It ain't the same world we used to live in.
But that's the thing. Now, it used to be, if you go back,
them gold 100s, them hard motherfuckers like your mama.
Bitches and hoes.
Now, if you go back, you go back further than that. Before they had these things in the military called MREs, they used to have them doggone I forgot the name of the rats on them, right? They give you a little can, open up the stuff and everything. Yeah.
Right.
You got 2 Lucky Strike cigarettes in that motherfucker.
What?
Yeah, you talk about them old school rations.
Ain't they in the
My man,
military?
you had 2 Lucky Strikes that came with each one.
Canned rations, that was like damn near 80s Vietnam era.
That Vietnam era right there, them damn Lucky Stripes. And from what I hear, them motherfuckers are strong. I'm like, well, how they gonna be lucky?
I heard the government was giving motherfuckers dope too in Vietnam. I heard they was giving people dope in Vietnam.
They
You know
were.
what I'm saying?
That's what the whole damn war was about. It was a drug war.
My granddaddy did 2 tours over there. He did 2 tours over there. His first tour was, he did a tour in Korea, 2 tours in Vietnam. And everything y'all saying about them Lucky Strikes, yep, it's the truth. It's the truth. Big facts. And them Lucky Strikes didn't have no goddamn filter on the back cover. They didn't have no filter. Yeah, they was smoking them motherfuckers straight, hardcore.
Rough ass tobacco. That scratch your ass up tobacco.
Thank you so much, G-Rock, man. Hey, man. All I know is I used to have to go get them damn things, man. And, you know, like I'll be in the car. I'm allergic to cigarettes, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so,
damn.
Yeah, man, I'm allergic to the smoke. So, you know, I went to the doctor. I finally went to the allergist, and they were like, he can't be around cigarette smoke. My OG was like, fuck that shit. I'm smoking my goddamn Winstons. You gonna have to open that goddamn window, boy.
Hey, GG, what'd he say? Shit, I been smoking around his ass and ain't stopped him. Shit, he'll be all right. Fuck it.
Word to my mother, though. I ain't gonna disrespect her to the point where, you know, like saying she wasn't, you know, she wasn't like motherfucking Precious's mom and no shit like that. You know?
Yeah.
But I mean, she was like, shit. But she was like, shit, I'm gonna smoke my motherfucking squares, though. You know what I'm saying? It just is what it is. But I mean, you know, at the end of the day, all I'm saying is, man, if Pookie is destroying the black community, that would mean the drugs is destroying the black community. And I just don't believe that that's true, man. I don't believe it to be true. I believe this is some Nancy Reagan propaganda put forth in order to ramp up the drug war, man. And that to me, the war itself is the thing that's caused the devastation and the destruction. You know what I'm saying? That's
I look at it differently.
Somebody made a good point.
I look at it. Yeah, I look at it differently. I look at it as, you know, black folk, if we didn't have no money, we still had standards. Now, since we got to talk about, you know, Big Mama and Mama and all that back in the day. Now, fellas, do you remember when you see the ladies out there, and they be drinking them damn Miller's beers, but the can would be wrapped up in a napkin and they drinking it out of straw? Remember that?
Man, I done seen some crazy
shit. Remember all the ladies?
That was called being classy. That was called being classy.
That's what I'm saying. Now what you got?
That's what I'm saying.
They taking a bottle to the dome. We turn up in this bitch. No, you looking like a thought skank, classless motherfucker. And then you want to run around talking about niggas ain't shit. Well, what the hell you gonna think you gonna attract, you non-class having motherfucker?
No, man, you know, when I was in school, man, women didn't drink straight out the bottle, man. I'm keeping it 100.
That's what I'm saying. We from a different time. Now,
I never seen that, man.
Somewhere down the road, shit got lost in the sauce. It got lost in the shuffle, bro. You got doggone females turning up a bottle of Hennessy, talking about we turning up, and it's like, whoa. Wait, when that start happening? You drinking straight out the damn bottle. The only people we seen drinking out the bottle were winos. Even when they had events at the house. Motherfuckers will pour them a glass.
That's what they is now. The key word is they winos. They winos.
I'm gonna tell you what.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta wait up for Blexit. I gotta go back. I'm gonna come back to this video though, but I gotta go back. Okay, I gotta go back. All right. And I'm gonna tell you why I gotta go back. I gotta go back. Okay? You're gonna see my screen here for a second, but I got to go back. Okay? The Green Gorilla Show. drug show. Okay. Here are the people who use drugs, man. Because some of y'all Johnny come late. The father of modern psychology, Sigmund Freud, was an avid cocaine user. Check that. Understand that. Francis Crick discovered the double helix. DNA structure. Use LSD. Thomas Alva Edison. Every time you flick on your light, think Thomas Edison, who used to drink liquid cocaine in a drink called Vin Mariani. Paul Edros basically published more mathematical papers than any human being alive. Used to do so off amphetamines. Okay? Steve Jobs might have a Mac computer or an iPhone or some shit like that. LSD. Well, if you don't fuck with Steve Jobs, you don't like the Macintosh, well, you probably do fuck with Bill Gates. He used LSD. Okay? You don't call them Pookies. They don't get called Pookies. They get called explorers, experimenters. They get called
the word maverick.
They get called, libertines or epicures or something like that. John Lilly, basically a pioneer in electronic brain stimulation, basically figured out how the brain processes pleasure and pain. LSD. One of his partners who worked with him, Richard Feynman, LSD, marijuana, and ketamine. And again, not to mention, some of y'all's heroes and shit in politics was also some big dope heads. You understand what I'm saying? Because your boy Bush, you probably got a lapel pin for him. That motherfucker used to keep his nose treated. You like to treat your nose, huh? Yeah, you be treating your nose, huh?
Don't forget his wife, Laura Bush, was an alcoholic, and she killed the man in Texas, and she got off.
So all we trying to say is drugs. I started the show off by explaining, man, the history of drug use in the world before civilizations began to pop up. Human beings were already imbibing mind-altering substances.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget about, me being a military man, I always got to throw some military little something in the game. Don't forget about the Blitzkrieg in World War II when the Germans went 3 days attacking and killing everything in front of them. They was on meth.
And the Japanese pilots, the kamikazes, they was on meth. They was on meth too.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Like, I mean, all we're trying to say is what they do, and the biggest image of a dope head is going to typically be a black person. Somebody who, is somebody with immense strength because they psyched up off some dope. Okay?
Well, that's through the doggone the media image to make other people feel good about themselves. See, in the United States, people always have to have somebody else they can point at to make them feel good about their thing. That's like when you get black folks talking about welfare, right? Now, black folk that ain't even on that page don't give a damn about no welfare or whatever it is, and don't even know the numbers. They always say it's more white folks on welfare than black folks, but they don't research the numbers. And the numbers are easy to find, okay? You got doggone 30% of a 72% population of this country, which are white people, that are on welfare. Okay, so that's a good, 65 million? We don't have 65 million black people. You dig?
Right.
I mean, stop me when I lie. Do the math on it. 30% of the biggest population in this country, that's 65 million. We at 12% of this country? And then it's only 31% of black folk that's on doggone welfare from our percentage. So, what are we looking at now? About what, 3-4 million?
So yeah, like look, we're not saying that there's a danger to some people from drug use. There is.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a danger, but you can't blame, oh, the drugs, see, 'cause the drugs is doing this. Man, look, this is me. What Black America was hurting Black America more than anything is that we lost our doggone self-respect and common decency to each other. That's what hurt Black America. Now they want to attribute it to drugs and to this and that. That's a freaking cop out. Okay, people losing self-respect. I remember, I know you got to be 50 or over, my brother. I know you got to be 50 over.
Yeah, I'm
Just from the
50.
things, okay, from the things you was talking about from back in the day, right? Same as myself. Now, I remember when we was kids, if we was walking down the street, because it's a church in every doggone black block in the hood, and some kids start cussing, we be like, "Ooh, don't you be cussing in front of a church." We knew that much. Now they in Chicago doing drive-by shootings in front of churches. We lost
Yeah,
our
man,
self-respect.
yeah, I mean,
We lost our self-respect, bro.
well, it's these young guys out here, man, they don't have any direction. And I did a show about this a while ago, man. Like a lot of these guys don't even respect their own daddies. And it's like, okay, if you don't respect your father, how you gonna learn to respect and to honor and to know how to interact with other men? I mean, instead of hanging in packs and
Right,
considering somebody outside of your pack the enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I mean,
right,
young men do collect in groups. It's to be expected. You know what I'm saying? And there's going to be a pecking order within the group. But like, it's like that Dr. Dre song, man. Little ghetto boy, man. I remember back in the days we used to fight, but now they blast, right? It's like, come on, man. Like, we used to come from the shoulder, not the hip.
right.
But I
But
mean, that changed though. That changed in the
let's
early
see.
'90s, bruh. That
I know,
changed in the early '90s, bruh.
but see, the reason for the change happened in the 70s. Now, this is what went down. Now, I can't prove this scientifically. I can only prove it from what I saw. Okay. In the 60s, you had all of the brothers that was going to Vietnam, right? And it was doggone expected for you to be married before you go to war, right?
Right, right.
You had a lot of brothers that didn't come back. You had a lot of brothers that came back physically, but they were mentally train wrecked and they was hooked on dope. Then you had the feminist movement of the doggone 70s, and the white women got the black women to join them for numbers' sake. Then you had black women having to do it for themselves because the men, it was so many black men that was strung out or ruined from the Vietnam War. Where they missed at was when they started giving these behaviors in front of their daughters on some don't need a man activity. Now, when they started that you don't need a man activity, the daughters looking at these black women picked up on that. And when we got to the 80s, they felt they didn't need a man because he had plenty of paper. Now, in the 80s, who had plenty of paper? The dope boys. You see what I'm saying? So your regular get a job, build a future black man was wrote the hell off. But what they didn't doggone bargain for with that life was the brother wasn't going to live long in that game. And then the brother had kids that didn't have a father to get him direction. The woman don't know what to do. She has not seen a situation where her father is doggone giving, the mother the protection and the respect and everything, right? So she on her own, she just going doing the best she can, trying to figure this thing out herself. And women being emotional, more than logical, she gonna make an emotional decision. Oh, he cute though. But what he bringing to the table? Do he got a table of his own to bring it to? You know what I mean? So that in a nutshell, cause what's going on today, which are the grandchildren of the people that were born in the 60s. That's who's out here doing this foolishness. Because see, when I was born, the child out of wedlock rate was like 26%. People would get married. People would get pregnant and two things happen. Either a shotgun wedding or they move out the neighborhood out of shame. Now they celebrate single motherhood. You even had Michelle Obama. I felt just like, really? I wish I could have hollered at her when she talking about Barack Obama. Yeah, that's my baby daddy. I said, he's the president of the United States. That's your husband, father to your children. You don't ever say no ghetto shit like that. Even though we both from Chicago and, we attended the same high school for a short stint. But nah, pimping. And like I say, we as black people, we just started we started rewarding bad behavior, paying more attention to it than doggone applauding good behavior.
Well, I can agree. Part of that's the issue. But I don't think by itself it was dope. You know what I'm saying? That's what we talking about today. You know what I'm saying?
Right, that's what I'm saying. By itself, dope alone. You can't attribute this strictly to drugs. You got other layers to this. You can't attribute that strictly to drugs. You know what I'm saying?
And look,
you had redlining.
Thank you.
You had fatherless homes. You had basically circumventing the growth of Black America, period.
Also, you had
don't forget the Jim Crow and segregation to go along with redlining.
No.
We can't. You also had a lot of Black veterans. Shout out to the veterans like myself. And you had a lot of Black veterans who were not given their GI bills, who were not given their VA loans, which creates generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
You've been subjugated for so goddamn long.
And you also had that affirmative action thing that went down that gave Black women a 2-up on a Black man. See, with affirmative action, she's a double minority. She's a woman and a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So she got 1-up on the Black man for the job.
Well, don't let her be
from
lesbian.
The get-go
triple
gay.
Minority.
Well, that's now today. You're a triple minority. But really, they ain't even got them no more. They got so many alphabets, I can't keep up. Every time I turn around, there's a new alphabet or a symbol. I'm like, what that's supposed to mean? I get turned on when I looked at a bottle of Texas Pete hot sauce. I get horny. What the hell is that?
Don't laugh, but it's there.
Yeah, I know it's there. I see it. I'd be like, you a huh? They had this thing. What was that fine sister? That fine sister that was in they helped the space shuttle. The space shuttle go up. The rocket ship go up. The first one. Janelle Monáe.
Oh yeah,
Janelle Monáe.
Yeah.
That fine ass sister talking about she gets sexually motivated by objects.
Yeah, she's a waste of pretty.
Well,
total waste of pretty.
Look, man. Right now we live in a culture, man, that it's right now we're living under the umbrella of white women's neuroticism, bro.
Yeah.
And they have superimposed their neuroticism on Black women and women throughout the world, really, because they all starting to talk like white women. And then but my whole issue is that from the start with that was, come on, man, cut the cap. Y'all used to buy and sell slaves.
That's one point.
Wait
that's
a minute.
That's a point I brought up on a panel, bro. I was on a panel and a white chick chimed in talking about that Petio, Patello, whatever the missing little white girl is right now, that they got the 1-800 FBI number and all this and that, right? She got to talking about how women have been white women been oppressed over the doggone centuries and the blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? I'll see your white woman oppression and raise you slavery. I'll call.
Yeah,
she shut up. I was like, ain't nothing else you can say.
But
you
slavery is a foregone conclusion now, because now you got Black women talking about they're pushing the gender line, and like W.E. Du Bois said, the the most important issue will be the issue related to the color line at the turn of the 20th century. At this moment in time, the line that's, you know, the most important is the gender line, because it consumes every other. And, you know, like, and look, this culture is not in balance. And these women, man, like, all I can say is, bruh, look, I just consider it to be absolutely ridiculous, some of the claims that they're making. Like,
yeah.
Like I went over yesterday.
There is no gender line. There are only two genders. Either you got XY chromosome or you got XX chromosome. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Well, nowadays, they, you know,
they can't prove it scientifically.
Well, nowadays,
they can't prove it scientifically.
Well, you can prove it scientifically, like, you know, what the physical and the chemical and the DNA and chromosomal composition of a human being is. You can figure that out. Now, there are outliers, you know, because, you know, genes sometimes, you know, they mutate and different things happen. And so you have blurred lines in some instances. But, you know, I tried to explain to people, man, that, you know, this whole distinction between sex and gender basically is something that came from a white woman by the name of Judith Butler, okay? And this whole constructionism related to gender and sex, you know, for the most part was played out under the, you know, the framework of post-structural thought, which is basically thought about how language orders and, you know, reifies social processes. Now, I'm not trying to sound all jargony. All I know is how to actually articulate it in the language that I do. And let me try to break it down into nutty professor terms, well, buddy love terms.
There you go.
So, all right, so I'm trying to process it. So these people basically say that language orders reality. And language is the thing that creates habits and social norms and shit like that. So everything is mediated through language. Your understanding of the world is mediated through language. So to them, you know, like, there's nothing to push back against, you know, reality. I mean, reality itself doesn't push back against language. Social processes don't come from biology. They just come from, you know, exploitation. Like, you got to think, like, okay, so all women were exploited throughout all time. Like, being like, nigga, let me just say this shit. I'm going to put it real simple. If I had a chick that was willing to go to work and she made $200,000 a year, or even $80,000 or $90,000 a year, and we was living comfortably, and all I had to do was watch the motherfucking crib,
see,
I could sit back and chill the fuck out and watch the crib and go shopping when I needed to, or whatever, you know what I'm saying, the shit I wanted to keep myself up. All I gotta do is just take care of the crib and make sure that the food is cooked. First of all, I'm gonna start prepping food way ahead of time, motherfucker, and I'm gonna enjoy the shit that I did when I was cooking. Not only that, let me tell you how quick. Let me tell you how easy it is to fix a motherfucking house up, man, real fast. It won't take me an hour and a half to fix no house up, even if it's ransacked. You feel me? It could be a party in this motherfucker. Wait a minute, dog. I'm talking about motherfuckers smoking, drinking, spilling shit. I had that crib looking like a motherfucking hotel room in a matter of an hour and 30 minutes. I'm talking about vacuuming, mopping, cleaning the toilets, all that shit. See, motherfuckers, when you do work begrudgingly, it takes forever. But when you get down and dirty and you get to that shit, it's done and it's over with. And you talk about some kids? Motherfucker, look, I gotta watch some kids. Them kids I'm gonna be like motherfucking Major Payne, dog. They gonna get in line, bro. I'm just saying. My life gonna be like, okay, this is what I got to do? And first of all, look, let me just say this shit. It's something I didn't say yesterday. Who are the biggest consumers in terms of demographics? Women are. They spend more money per household, damn near, than men. Now, single men don't spend. Single men might spend more on like cars or tech shit or something like that. But typically, it's women spending the cash, man.
Yeah.
Big
They the
purchase
biggest
items.
consumers, bro.
Cause I know a bunch of them got $600 Gucci purses and ain't got $600 readily available in the bank.
Bruh, let me tell you something, bruh. If all I had to do was
purse, to be
if
precise.
all I had to do was watch the crib and make sure that motherfucker clean, that motherfucker be clean. It'll be so clean that even if all I have to do is what they call straightening up. And if I had kids, them motherfuckers would be straightening up. Oh, it's time for us to straighten up.
So see, I was in a situation like that, and the sister
They too
fucked
busy
it up.
trying to be like Pamela and Peggy Sue, because if they white man was in the same position, you know what that white woman would do in less than 2.5 years? She gonna leave and find a man who's making the equivalent of what she's making, if not more. Because to have him sitting at the house doing exactly what she should be doing, what you talking about, that black woman's gonna try to imitate that white woman. She's been imitating that white woman since eternity. So she's gonna do the same thing. She's gonna kick your ass out. It ain't enough cleaning you can do. Ain't enough pipe you can be laying. Ain't enough cat you can be licking. Ain't enough house you can be cleaning and kids you can be minding. She gonna go find somebody that's on her level in her mind financially, because she's trying to be exactly like these white bitches.
No,
Exactly.
She's gonna try to upgrade. Now I tell you something that I've grown to understand in my experience with black women. Right? Now, you all tell me if I'm lying to you, brothers. You'll get with a sister and you fully taking care of her. I was in a situation, all this motherfucker had to do was wake up in the morning, right? Ain't had no job, no nothing. I'm in the military 13 to 16 months out of the year. She didn't have to be bothered with my ass because I was in Iraq or Afghanistan some damn where. All right. Nah. And she wasn't happy. Nah. They always think, well, I pulled this one. I can get me one that's doggone banking more than him. They always think they can upgrade from what they already got. I don't know why they do it.
But here's the deal. This my whole thing is this. If you make an oath, keep the motherfucker.
Well, that goes good in saying, but with the fellas,
but I mean, at the end of the day, this is what I'm saying. Like the whole idea, I can get somebody better bullshit. Like, look, marriage is a joke to me in this culture, okay? Because if you can get a divorce, there is no fucking marriage for real. You know what I'm saying? Because it's supposed to be about two people becoming one. That's what it's supposed to be. But that ain't how they think about it. They think about it as, okay, I'm supposed to be happy. Like, who the fuck? Man, you make your own happiness.
Thank you. Because when you marriage vows don't say shit about motherfucking happy. That ain't in the vows. Happy ain't in the vows. You got to make your own happiness. Now, the fellas, the fellas can get a woman and she got that good. I mean, she got that good. We don't be sitting there like, ooh, this was so good. I know it's got to be another sister out here that's got better good than she do. We don't do that. We got the good. We good where we at. These sisters, they ain't good where they at. Oh, well, he make $100,000 a year. I pulled him. I can work my little black girl magic. I get me a brother making $200,000 because I know. They get hyped up on their womanness, and the womanness has nothing to do with femininity. Because a lot of black women, not all, are the most verbally confrontational women, bar none.
Well, hey, man, we all have our lamentations about black chicks, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's a culture of disrespect as far as I'm concerned. I'm just going to keep it 100. Like,
yeah, it is.
I ain't going to say men are not disrespectful because they can be in their ways. But, like, a lot of times, man, like, look, if you're going into a relationship, try to relate to the motherfucker. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's called a relationship. So relate to who you with. But, like the whole power dynamic of, okay, I don't like these gender roles. Okay. I said this the other day. you gonna want me to play a gender role when the time is appropriate. You gonna expect for me, if there's immediate threat or danger, you gonna expect for me to put my body in harm's way. Bottom line, you're gonna expect that. Okay? If something goes bump in the night, I'm supposed to go check the shit out.
Exactly.
You're not gonna do that. A woman is not gonna do that. Typically, even women who they date, they don't want men smaller than them or at their height level. They want a man that's bigger than them. Because this is biology speaking. Okay? Women are, they don't typically go for the little scrawny dude.
Now it's some of it is mental too, because I know a chick. Now she a little shorty. She weigh about 137. She got a daughter that's an Amazon, and she says that she will not date a man that can't overpower her daughter. I'm like, what your daughter got to do with what's going up in between your legs? I mean, make that part make sense to me.
Man, look, all I'm saying is, man, like, look, the whole game right now is one where if you got policy and laws and you have a cultural practice or a set of practices and norms put into place that allow them to be able to ring the alarm and to put you in a precarious position at any moment, they're going to use it. I called that shit the ring of Gyges a long time ago. When I first started doing this shit, I said they got it and they use it. Okay? And power corrupts absolutely, man, whether it's men or women. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, all I'm saying is, like, the culture we live in, man, is microwave culture, bruh. It is.
Instant gratification.
It ain't slow boil culture. It ain't the rice on the stove culture, where it's the real rice, not the instant rice. This that quick wave shit, the hamburger helper shit.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, just put the meat in and mix it around with a package of water and a packet of seasoning, and it's done. That's the generation we live in. That's the kind of, community we live in. Nobody feels that there's any value to be gained from actually playing a role or fulfilling a duty. It's all about the individual and their perceived happiness. And most of these motherfuckers ain't happy no way. Your happiness comes from within, a sense of well-being. I ain't watched Kendra in a minute, but I do know she got this thing about spiritual value. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to, like, it's you got to have your shit straight first, mentally and spiritually. If that shit ain't straight, there's no way you're gonna be satisfied. There's no way you're gonna be happy. There's no way you're gonna have a sense of rest.
He did.
And it's at the current moment, man, everybody is looking for shit to quickly make them happy, like a quick excitation of the senses.
Everybody is self-absorbed, and that's all.
But they say we self-absorbed though.
I know, but it's self-absorbed. I mean, the bottom line up front, you get a lot of doggone sisters, and I make sure that I say not all, because all sisters don't ride under that. But you have some sisters that could do better, know they could do better, and don't do better. Like, it's this cat that I know, right? This dude got 6 kids. He done been to different little events we didn't have. Everybody knows this woman. He done been there with 2 different side chicks, and people looking at him like, bro, we know who you go home to every night. Who the hell is she? You all booed up with right here. We know who she is. But this woman, she doesn't even have any children. So I'm sitting here like, and only if you the female version of Ray Charles, you don't see what's happening with this brother that you providing a roof over. Okay? But if I'm like, you like it, I love it, but it couldn't be me.
Well, hey, man, at the end of the day, man, they say all this fair in love and war. But I just don't think, the shit is set up like we got to get rid of all the vestiges of coverture laws. If it's gonna be the case that women are equal, shit, I don't have to cover you for shit.
Exactly.
I'm just
See, and
saying,
that's
like,
that
if you got it,
equality
if you got
thing.
your own job, you got your own and all this, then you gotta handle your own. Don't ask me for
You wanna,
shit. Don't get a.
yeah,
Don't
you
wait.
want
You don't need a replacement for me. You can replace
exactly.
me.
That, and that's the thing with them. That's the reason a lot of these sisters, what I always say, they can't get the protection and the collection because they can't accept direction. You can't doggone correct a black woman.
Well, anybody
You
could be
can't do it.
corrected.
If you give them doggone positive reinforcement, hey babe, I don't think you need to wear that because what's wrong with what I'm wearing? Baby, look, we going to such and such, we have an image to present, blah 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 blah. Don't no man want, it's these outfits. I call it the catch me, fuck me dress. And that's the one that's so short that they gotta hold it in the front when they sit down. They got their legs closed so it don't hoist up and show everything they got. Now, if I'm going to a company party. You my woman. I don't want you wearing a hoochie mama doggone piece of cloth wrapped around you. I want men to look and be like, oh man, he got a good one. Look, she, and that's what everybody wants. But I can do what I want to do. You ain't my daddy, and this ain't about being your daddy. It ain't trying to run you. It's all about the image that we're projecting onto the world. And that rewinds all the way back to what I said about Black America has lost the doggone value of respect for themselves, man. I mean, say some cat come say you having a cable issue and you got a technician that come to your crib and this dude got tattoos on his face, down his neck. You're gonna be looking at him sideways, like, do he really know what he really doing? Image is everything.
I feel you, bro. I feel you. I understand, man. Like, look, women tell men what to do all the fucking time, bro. They request incessantly. I mean, I need this. Can you do that? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then they get like an attitude when it's not done. You know what I'm saying? So if a man asks a woman
Yeah,
to
I
do some
mean
shit,
that
it is
that
what it is. But look, I'm about to
that
wrap this
does
shit
happen.
up though. Because I got a little spot to be at. You know what I'm saying?
I hear that.
But y'all got any last comments you want to make? Not about women and shit, but about dope. You know
Yeah,
what
I
I'm saying?
got.
And then I don't know. John Jones just recently came to the spot, so I want to allow him to have some airtime. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I'm gonna make it brief. How y'all doing this evening? Pleasure talking to you, elders.
Somebody got a lot of shit going on in the
They got
background.
a lot of noise in the
That
background.
ain't me. That ain't
Oh,
me.
that's me. I apologize.
Yeah. Mute that.
Yeah, I want to say it's a pleasure to even be on the radio with you, with y'all for rather. It's a very interesting topic. It's ironic because I just got hired to be in the mental health field as a mental health technician, and having this as something have on my mind to critically think about, and it's going to challenge me to observe. I didn't really even realize the idea of doctors and all of them being substance abusers and addicts and things like that. So
Oh, for
this
sure, man. Glad to
this is
have you here, man. Pleasure to have
yeah,
you, brother.
thank you. And I listen to you all the time. You remind me of my one of my uncles. You just him with a PhD. So
Hey, man, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for watching, man, and listening, man. I appreciate you, brother.
yeah,
You know
content
what I'm saying?
great. I'm not going to over flatter or all that, but I'm at least give you accolades. I definitely appreciate your content. When I get some bread, I'll be able to contribute. But I'm a broke college graduate, so
Hey, man, take care of your business, man. Get yourself started, brother. Don't worry about that.
cool.
Much love, and man, congratulations on your new position, man, and your entry into a new field, a new endeavor, a new possibility and potentialities, bro. Keep your head up, man, and keep moving and persevering and progressing, bro. So keep your head up, man.
Yeah, I'll make sure I stay away from the prescriptions.
Yeah, man, but again, man, most people who use these substances, man, typically don't become addicted to them, man. And that's just the facts.
Yeah, I heard you say that earlier.
And I was gonna show this video of Carl Hart. I might do it at some other time. Right now I'm running out of time to do it. We're already at the 2-hour mark, and I find that, these streams can get long, man. I've done 4 to 5 hour streams, and it is what it is. But I mean, like, all I want to say is drugs are not the downfall of the black community, man. And Pookie and, like, from New Jack City, I mean, they exist here and there. But for the most part, man, most people using dope, man, use that shit and they keep it pushing. And you don't know who they are because the drugs are illicit. So a lot of people keep tight-lipped about it. But I mean, hey, man, all this fake ass fuckery going on in this culture, man. Everybody want to be politically correct. Everybody wants to be prim and proper and appear, to be, pristine and pure and all of this, man. But at the end of the day, man, like, man, there's a lot of motherfuckers doing a lot of dirt out here, man. Straight wolves in sheep's clothing, perpetrating the fraud. You know what I'm saying?
For that matter, they have them behind an image and they're portraying what's apparent rather than being truly real or who authentic and who they are to themselves. I think we're missing that authenticity factor.
Yeah, and I know people are going to disagree, and people are going to have a different perspective. Like Durable Goods said, the drugs never did us any good. I don't know, man. If you go through a surgery and shit, and you don't have any drugs, that's fucked up, man. The aftermath of the surgery is going to be pretty painful for you, my brother.
And they
or
say,
if you're at a party, you can't drink alcohol, and alcohol, again, I put the stats up there, man. Alcohol is the substance that kills more people, and tobacco, in fact, tobacco and alcohol kill more people than all the other drugs combined. But like alcohol is the second, which is legal, which most people don't have an objection to at all. If you want to go by what actually kills people, then go by what actually kills people. It just is what it is. Like the stuff that kills people is alcohol.
See?
But, of course, that's socially acceptable, so people are not gonna,
there's money in it, so you don't want to mess up the bread. So.
Well, not only the bread, but I mean, people like their own, like they like their habits.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They like their, their vices. Mm-hmm. Shout out to you, K-Ron. It's another brother that hit me up too, man. Shout out to Dayutit Amin Ra. Shout out to you, brother. Yeah, we got another brother here coming into the stream, man. I gotta let him in. KP, how you doing, man?
What's up, dog? How you doing today?
What's up, bro? Yeah, we got another brother here.
So I'm gonna cut my thing off. I know it's echoing in the back, but I wanted to say that you were bringing up about how the dope game and everything, like Pookie messed up the situations in the black community in the last 30 years. Everyone got to remember, what movie was it? I believe it was Panther with old boy Kadeem Hardison played like the character trying to, he was the one in the not antagonist but a protagonist.
Right,
and
right.
At the end of the movie, right when they were trying to stop the Panthers as far as the government and everything, they got in bed with the mob and pretty much gave them free range to drop as much dope in the inner city as possible so they could pretty much, weaken the black community. And like the guy that played Ezel, his character was typically of most of the drug dealers. I call the selfish dude, like the Regins. I call him, the backwards nigga. I call him Regins, though. If you spell it backwards, that's what it sounded like. So he was just thinking about himself. He said, hey, if I ain't going to do it, somebody else is. And that's what happened. A lot of guys got in the dope game. Snowfall's a great show and all that, Rick Ross. But if you ever seen the real Rick Ross, he'd tell you he didn't have a high education. And I guess that was taken advantage of on him until when he realized he was a pawn in the game. It was too late. They locked him up because pretty much the rule of it is let them do their thing for 4 or 5 years, be a kingpin, and then so we can get our numbers and say that we're doing something for the community. We go in and we get them. It happens with Frank Lucas, happened with Nicky Barnes, happens with all these guys. They keep getting this mindset that somehow they're getting over on people. They're just being allowed for a certain amount of time to run around, make their money, spend it, but more importantly, ruin their community. And like if you look at Harlem back in the 40s and 50s, or in the 30s, it was a beautiful area. But then when heroin hit that sucker in the 70s, it was just like someone dropped a
I heard
bomb.
it looked like a war zone.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to look, and like the show with my brother Forrest Whitaker. I know he played Bumpy Johnson. Malcolm was telling them in that, dog, you're killing the community. You're making $1. I get that, but you're killing the community. You're making a quick dollar that's gonna cause long pain. People don't realize you're making fast money is gonna cause a long pain in which the mother's gonna be addicted to either heroin as a dope fiend or a crackhead in the 80s. Everybody keeps idolizing the guys in the 80s. The thing about trying to be a gangster and saying you're not living the life that someone's telling you what to do, you got to get up 9 to 5. That's more discipline in your life doing that, even if you're making minimum salary compared to you a dude going out here and you're getting a quick dollar. But like I said, you're being allowed. You might get 5, 6, 7 years. They're gonna come get you. I know that BMF movie show is supposed to come on Stars in the next month or so, but like, you really think the DEA or whoever knew what they were doing?
In my opinion, man, the drug game is played out to begin with. I myself indulged in the drug game. I went to prison for it.
Yeah.
So you ain't got to tell me. I already know. You understand what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, man, the drugs get some people addicted. Yeah, some people. But the vast majority of people who do dope, man, they don't get addicted. These are facts, okay? I'm just saying, like, we got to rethink this whole idea that, like, the dope was so catastrophic to the community. We got to start rethinking that because dope is everywhere, bro. It ain't just being used by black folks in the hood. Drugs.
Well, we seen it.
Huh?
Well, I was about to say the professor who says he's a habitual heroin user. He even said the crack baby epidemic was pretty much a media concoction.
I mean, for the most part, yeah. Look, I'm not saying that there's some people who turn into addicts. I agree that there are. Okay, but you got food addicts, you got sex addicts, you got alcoholic addicts, you got chronic smokers. You know what I'm saying? Like, addiction cross cuts all different kinds of habits, bro. You understand? So it's not something that's just allocated towards one, component of viciousness. You got vice in a whole bunch of different areas. Like overdoing anything, taking anything out of moderation is going to lead to your downfall. You eat too much food, it's going to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Like you drink too much water, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah, kidding too.
I think the policies more than anything else, like this whole policy, like first of all, if drugs were legal and people didn't get that stepped on and that dirty stuff, first of all, the price of it wouldn't be so high. You wouldn't have an unregulated market. You wouldn't have people killing each other in order to control the market because it could actually be regulated
exactly
in an open way. So when you got these young guys coming in trying to make money, maybe it's selfish. It is selfish, okay, to a certain extent. But it's unfortunate, man. The selfishness in and of itself is the thing that propels the economy. Like if you look at economic theory in and of itself, it's egoism, which is supposed to be the thing that keeps it moving and the wheels turning and turning. There's no charity. There's no charity in capitalism, bro.
Well, they said in the 80s, like Miami's a perfect example of it. Most of everything that was built, because Miami prior to the 80s was nothing but maybe a golf town for old folks to go down there and retire and die. But when cocaine blew up down there in the late 70s and 80s, you said everything down there blew it up. Everything you saw, and then from car dealerships, because everybody had money, was buying Mercedes, whatever, luxury cars, going to Hermes and every place, so everything was associated with, like you're right, the drug dollar, and everyone took the money they made from it, saved it, whatever, invested it, cleaned it up, and made it look like, yeah, they made their money from something legitimate, but in reality, yeah, it came from, you know, the dope game. So I get that point of view, but like,
yeah, the dope. Look, I'm not encouraging people to go out here and use drugs.
yeah,
I mean, look, you can do whatever you want to, man. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. You want to take them risks and them penitentiary chances, you go ahead and do that. You understand what I'm saying? The shit still is illegal. Do I think it should be illegal? I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, the first thing I started off with was, you know, like tracing the outline and genealogically covering the instantiation of drug use amongst various human populations, even prior to the advent of early civilization. I'm talking about the Tigris, Euphrates area. I'm talking about the Nile River Valley. Like, I mean, like you find like traces of drugs archaeologically everywhere, all throughout the world, whether it's mushrooms, whether it's, you know, mescaline, whether it's the poppies, you know, in Asia.
The coca leaves they used to chew on down South America, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, like drugs are everywhere. Human beings have been experimenting with mind-altering substances since they got on two legs, bro. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't think it's gonna ever stop.
Nah.
You understand? And some of the most successful people and people who are lionized and looked at as vanguards and mavericks have been some heavy drug users. You know, and I've pointed that out. Now, am I encouraging people to go out there and risk being addicted? No, I'm not. That's not what this is about. But all it is to say, look, you have an idea about dope, and a lot of people got ideas about dope, never did it, never been around it for real. All they know is what they see in the media or what they've seen on movies and shit. I'm just saying, like, I know people, man, you know, like in very high positions and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like them people was like doing some hella dope, man. You know, and still was able to function. So everybody's not the same, man. Some people, you know.
Well, just like anything else in life, if you're going to partake into that, you know, drug use, and I might including weed to a degree, but even though sometimes, you know, people get addicted to weed so badly that they can't function. If you ain't got the discipline nor the focus, like you said, moderation is key to be able to balance, you know, doing whatever drug you know, partake in, then you probably shouldn't even be doing it to begin with, where somebody else can do a gram every couple of days and still function without walking around scratching. I need to get high again, you know, where, you know, a lot of folks just have an addictive personality where they say drug usage most times than not, like you said about food, sex. If you got a certain type of personality, that's just one part of it where you're not going to be able to, you know, kick it because you have an addictive type gene inside of your head to which you always keep going back, whether it's a damn Dorito chip or a piece of tail that you got to keep going after. You just got to, you know, so, you know, the drug game, and I got a brother, he did time for it, you know, and because, you know, he's about 15 years older than me. So he was in his teens during the 80s. My thing about it was me not having him around when I was in my developmental years, but me seeing other folks around me either getting, like, 'cause I'm from New York when I grew up in Queens. The mother, she's strung out. And like I said, it's all about personality. If you had a bad circumstance, a lot of folks jump to drugs to try to escape
the pain.
trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma. They said after the civil rights movement in the 60s, my mama told me, my mother's in her 70s now, so she was in that time frame. A lot of folks were so like burnt out from the 60s and the marching, and after King and Malcolm got killed, they just wanted to have fun. And that's why in the 70s, they didn't give a fuck. They didn't care about being conscious. All they cared about was going to the disco, getting high,
and bullshit, and party and bullshit.
Dropping a Quaalude and all that shit. That's why she laughs when you hear about the whole Bill Cosby stuff. She's like, everybody was doing Quaaludes back then. But, you know, everyone wanted to get away from all the stress of even sometime when you try to live a purposeful life, that can make you just say, fuck it. I just want to live on an unpurposeful life for a certain amount of time because, and if you couldn't balance doing coke with whatever you were doing back then you most likely were going to get fucked up and your life was never going to be the same. But like you said, some people can do this shit and go about their business. Celebrities, some were doing it for years. Nobody knew they were like some football players on the damn Pittsburgh Steelers. You didn't know it till you heard stories. They were doing lines of coke and shit before the night before the Super Bowl. You know,
but you know, like, and this is why I defer to the people like you was talking about the neuroscientist Carl Hart. That's the person who you were referencing earlier, who says that from time to time he uses opium or heroin or whatever the case may be. I don't know if he does or not currently, but you know, to me, you know, like, look, more than 90% of people who use dope don't get addicted to it. You got like 10% that do. And the policies that are put into place to stigmatize and dehumanize those persons who do.
It's the stigmatized part. Because I don't mean to cut you off, but Nixon, and I read and I did a paper like this when I was in college. It was meant to try to, how do we combat this whole black militant thing? We have to try to put them in, incarcerate them in a large proportion, and it'll throw off the generations for at least the next 20 or 30 years. That was the game plan. They got tired of the 60s and all the, you know, and the Panther type stuff and the Malcolm X, even the MLK. They said, we got to put them down. Reagan was governor of California at the time of the Black Panthers. Now, don't take it as a coincidence. He was the fucking president during the 80s while this shit was going on. And what they say, what's it called? Plausible deniability.
Yeah.
Yes. He knew what the fuck was going on. He knew it. He from the old school, like John Wayne and them. He knew this shit. He never liked that Black Panther shit when he was governor. So when he was president,
why would
80s,
you like that? That's your enemy.
Exactly. So his main goal back then was, hey, look, keep 3 or 4 people buffer between me, but take care of that shit. So with that whole CIA stuff, he had an idea about that stuff.
Man, but look, Ronald Reagan was the guy who banned open carry laws in California because of the Black Panthers.
Yes, exactly.
And then, but then they turned around and about face. See, they believe in being able to brandish and to bear arms for themselves, to protect themselves from us.
Yes.
But in actuality, all along, we needed to protect ourselves from them because they were the ones doing the terroristic acts.
Yes.
I mean, like, let's just be honest about this. And I ain't talking about just Republicans and Democrats. See, a lot of people get caught up into this bifurcation about white folks and different white folks with different value systems and political orientations and all this shit. They both don't like you, nigga. They both don't live around you, don't fuck with you, and don't holler at you like that. They don't interbreed with you like that. They do to a certain extent. I mean, you always got outliers. You always had that. But like for the most part, man, they don't fuck with you the long way.
I've seen it on occasions. My niece's grandmother, she's white. She's about 59, 60. So she had a son, he's interracial. She got outcasted from her family when she got pregnant by a black dude. So their way of trying to keep, and the Hispanics do the same thing. You mess around with a black dude, we'll outcast you. And then you're going to struggle like a black sister. And that'll be your lesson on, you don't deal with them. You go in there, you breed with them. I got a short story with my uncle, because everybody moved up to the north in the 60s, right? So my uncle came home with a white girl back in the 70s down in Carolina, right? And it was a small town. And long story short, he introduced it to my grandparents who were alive at the time, and they were polite to her and stuff like that. But my story goes that my grandfather put my uncle to the side outside backyard and said, "Hey, Mac, yeah, she's a nice young lady and everything, but we gotta live around here. This is about mid 70s maybe. Yeah, we gotta live around here, So you have your fun, but remember this, son. You may lay with him, but don't stay with him." That's what he told him, because he said pretty much, and it's in the 70s now. Might as well been down in the South though, 1930. That you over here doing this stuff with this girl up there in the North, New York, whatever. You can get away with it up there. It's a lot more liberal, but down here, yeah, we're gonna have to deal with the shit when people find out you over here laying with white women. So here I hear that story, and then I grew up. My parents moved up north to try to give us a better school system, and I'm the chocolate chip in the picture, so to speak, for about 4 or 5 years, and I have girls giving me notes and stuff like that. But that story came to me from that. Somebody say, "Hey, you can deal with them. Yeah, you better know the consequences, because especially if a daddy's Italian or daddy Irish, whatever." They don't like that idea, and I say it bluntly, some nigga messing around with their daughter. It's like when certain women might experiment with girls in college. The same thing goes on either in their young years, in their 20s, whatever. They want to experiment that curiosity. You know, homeboy at my job, he calls it the buck gene. He says, yeah, some white girls might have the buck gene where they might have a desire to be with a black guy because somebody in their family might have done it, and somehow it travels through them. That's why they have a curiosity or even a desire just to be with black men. And I thought about that shit. I said, come on, really? He said, think about it. You know, any black white girl that sees a tall black guy, you see how she get a certain look in her eyes. She thinking about, he can satisfy me just like her grandmama 100 years ago. I'm like, come on. But I seen it. You know, I got boys that went to college at respective universities down here in the South, and they've had their fun with Caucasian women saying, yeah, they love an athlete because it's something about it. They just, so and then that can throw you off as a black man when you don't want to deal with sisters. And then when y'all was saying about the masculinity of a black woman, Queen Latifah type situation happens when she gets sick and tired of seeing brothers with white girls and saying, why the hell you with her when she don't even respect you? She's only with you just for the experience. She's not with you for you as a man. She just wants to walk around saying, I had my fun with this black guy. And then when she gets tired of you, she goes into another one. And then you want to come back to me and I'm going to say, I don't want your tired ass. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
I feel you, brother. Well, Leonard Roy, man, I know you're still there on the
Yeah.
The queue. So if there are any words that you want to say before we close this up, man, now's the time to do it, man. And thank both of y'all for and all the other people who also appeared on the panel. And thank y'all
for
coming up. Appreciate it. And you can disagree with me, I'm good with that. Only thing I ask for is respect while you disagree. I ain't got to go back and forth arguing with somebody, yelling. And if you respect me, I'm gonna respect you, regardless as to what you think. I don't care. Any ideas, worthy of being put on the table. The only thing I ask for is, if you're gonna start with that disrespect shit, let's take it to its logical conclusion. Let's get disrespectful in the face then. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I'm just tired of all the browbeating and bullshit around here, man. Like if you all that tough, nigga, get tough for real then.
You talking about the internet thug type niggas?
Yeah, that internet bullshit. Motherfuckers cursing each other out for no reason and getting loud and calling each other bitches and all this kind of stuff, man. Like, come on, bro. Fuck you and fuck that. And like, if you come respectfully, I'm going to say something respectful back, even if you disagree. But if you come with some disrespect, there are times when I'll even entertain it for a while because it's amusing. But if I feel like you're trying to just be disrespectful and continue to be that way, okay, partner. Okay. Okay. All right. Because a lot of you, man, look, I'm just saying, bro. I'm not the pop-up type of dude now, but in the past, I'll probably pop up on a motherfucker. I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's up, dog? I want to see what that business is, boss.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm too old for that bullshit. I'm not going to destroy my livelihood, risk my, well-being, fucking around with somebody being tough on the internet and shit. And most of them dudes are not tough in real life, man.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. You ain't trying to kill nothing, let nothing die. For real. Wouldn't punch your way out of paper bag. You know what I'm saying? You're probably the last to strike first. You understand what I'm saying? So cut it out, man. Let's stop with the shenanigans. Let's be peaceful, man. Even if we disagree, let's be peaceful in our disagreements. Let reason work itself out through a conversation as opposed to, all this emotional fucking cantankerous, hateful ass behavior, man. Like, come on, man. That shit crazy. Like, you can disagree all day, but all the ad hominem shit, man, that come along with it, man, is some whole shit to me. And, that's just how I feel about it, bro. That's how I think, and perceive it. But at the end of the day, man, I want to appreciate y'all for coming through and chopping it up, man. And, my hope is that I'll see y'all on the next one. I might come back tomorrow. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I got some things to say about various issues, but, sometimes I feel like, man, let me pull back because, the less you say, the less you have to take back. You know what I mean? But I think tomorrow, man, I might come and do a little impromptu, little something. But thank y'all for joining with me tonight, man. I appreciate all your support, everybody who contributed to the channel tonight with the super stickers and the chats and so on and so forth, man. And my hope is, man, that y'all have a pleasant evening and you have a great day tomorrow, man. And,
I'm gonna be good.
Yeah. That was a good conversation, and it had some depth to it.
For sure, man. Well,
Yeah, but see,
see
it's
you on the
like,
next one, baby.
I used to tell my doggone soldiers was in charge, they do something stupid, be out there, get drunk and stupid, right? I tell them, hey, bottle of Crown Royal sitting on the shelf ain't done nothing to nobody. Take accountability for your action. You drank that doggone ugly juice and you performed an act of fool. So don't expect for me to take pity on you because you're trying to blame it on something. No, that Crown Royal don't do nothing to nobody. All it do is sit on the shelf and wait to get bought. Just like a hoe in the corner selling that thing. She out there on the stroll. She just waiting to get bought up to doggone get her paper. Now, if you went on ahead and got you one of them, got your Jordan strap up, and you ended up pissing out razor blades, don't blame it on her. You didn't have to buy that pussy.
No.
And with
You
that one,
dig? I mean, I put the shit. That's how I do it. You know what I'm saying? I make it easy enough for a 5-year-old to understand. Because I'm a simple ass man. I'm simple in the son bitch.
My pops used to say, life's an apple. You just choose when they want to take your bite out of it. So choose
There
wisely.
you go.
Choose wisely, man. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, man.
Exactly.
But having said all that, man, thank you, brothers, for coming in tonight, man.
No problem.
I'll see y'all on the next one, man. So I'll holler at y'all.
Bet. I won.
For sure. Again, man, thanks everybody for coming, coming out and viewing the show. It's a pleasure, man, to have you guys around and to listen, and even the ladies. Sometimes they may disagree with what we say, but we feel we have the right, and we think we have the right in the democratic society to be expressive in the ways that we so desire. So, at any rate, man, that's the end of this, man. On the next one, holla at you. Peace.